Hello my friends, welcome to another video. I wanted to talk to you about something special today, a game that's near and dear to my heart, and that's Darksiders. This game when it first came out did not light the world on fire as much as I would have expected it to, me being a huge fan. And I probably contributed to this, myself and many others, as in January of 2010 when this came out, another game came out at the same time called Bayonetta. Bayonetta had all of us Devil May Cry fans and us guys, for a reason or two, running to it as our next game. And while that went well and most of us absolutely adore that title, a lot of us straight up missed out on Darksiders. For me, it caught my attention when a friend of mine was playing it when I stopped by for a visit. And while I was enjoying Bayonetta, I was very captivated by the art style and the God of War-ness of this game because, make no mistake, this is in that era where a lot of games wanted to be like God of War because it was the new action game on the block and it was fantastic. So why not borrow from the best? But it caught my attention in such a way that I couldn't let it go. So I went and I picked it up, not immediately, but a little while after. And I immediately fell in love with the feeling of this game, the art style, and even the story and characters. This was one of those unique games where they took a formula like God of War and really ran with it instead of just kind of straight copying it with their own story, much like Dante's Inferno, which was very much a God of War clone, but Darksiders learned some things from Zelda, where it felt like you were going on a dungeon crawl of sorts every now and again in this game, and going back to those dungeons in different areas using different abilities you had acquired to unlock the next area or secrets all over the place. It was more heavily riddled with puzzles, and it was a much more thoughtful experience than something like God of War or Dante's Inferno. And yes, those comparisons do constantly come up because they are good comparisons. And while I do feel like God of War as a series is probably, actually not even probably, is more heralded as a better series, and Dante's Inferno was seemingly just lost to time and only had one entry, Darksiders is just very different to me. And over the years, I have grown to have more and more respect for this game. First, I want to talk about the story in this game. The story in this game is fantastic. I absolutely love it because it isn't trying to do too much. It knows what it is and just gives you some badass characters with some great set pieces and some great lore, and brings in plenty of conflict and conflicts of interest for that to feed off of. At the intro of this game, we are introduced to War, our character in this game that we follow, who is falsely called to Earth when the apocalypse has supposedly started and angels and demons are on Earth fighting it out, with humanity basically being extinguished in the middle of the conflict. But like I said, he is falsely called upon, so he has this entire situation blamed on him and him alone, and is imprisoned for his crimes against humanity. And when we pick up with him again, he is summoned by the Charred Council and strapped to a Watcher demon to keep him in line while they send him out on an investigation of sorts to stop the actual extinguishment of Earth and everything else. This story has a pretty poignant start, and it really goes from there. From the start of this, you start meeting a ton of interesting characters. Samael, the giant devil that you'll be working with a lot in the game. Ulthane, the Black Hammer, who is basically the blacksmith for everything celestial, alongside a bunch of enemies that you are trying to hunt down to gather their powers to both become powerful yourself and to give to Samael, who is going to help you achieve your goals. And while this story has a pretty clear setup, it actually does go through quite a bit of twists and turns, and a lot of moments that have you thinking to yourself, oh, I don't know what's actually going on, there is a lot of backstabbing going on, and a lot of revelations to go through. This makes the story a joy to play through, especially with all the different places you get to go and visit that are paired with a fantastic art style that ages very well, in my opinion. The next best part of this game that keeps me coming back the most is the actual gameplay. This is a hack and slash action game with certain abilities that you can use during your combos and move sets to keep combos going, to juggle enemies, to have everything end with a bit of flourish and finishing enemies off with very fancy and very brutal and satisfying finishers. Most of the time you'll be using War's main sword, and this thing is just so fun to pummel enemies with. And as you slay enemies with your weapons in this game, they accrue XP and they seemingly just get stronger and stronger just with use, not necessarily upon killing things, which I thought was pretty cool because you can come up with some fun little, I don't know if you want to call it exploits, but it's just part of the game. Fun ways to really level up your weapons by dishing out tons of combos and hits as fast as possible. You can pair this sword with a scythe at one point in the game. You'll also get a pair of gauntlets that you can just pummel the hell out of enemies with. And even a horseman pistol, courtesy of our buddy Ulthane. And there's even a boomerang type weapon that is used very frequently during puzzles that you can either use as single target damage as you charge it up, or it can be used to bounce between enemies and leave enemies open for attack. The combat in this evolves at a very nice pace over the game and is always a joy to just beat the hell out of everything in sight. But one of the most unique things about this game, in my opinion, is its approach to world design and its puzzles, because every area in this game has a kind of puzzle-like thing going on where you need to figure out how to get through it. And that doesn't really apply heavily to each area, but as you go through the game, they get harder and harder to kind of make out. Never so much as to get you stuck, really, but a lot of the puzzles in this will definitely make you think, especially when trying to find different secrets in them and figuring out that when you get new abilities, you can go back to previous areas where you may have seen something you didn't know how to interact with, and now you can just freely move through it. The best example of this for me, when it comes full circle, is when you get your grappling hook that you can now swing from area to area and use to pull enemies in or pull yourself to them. By this point, you can really just start running around and treating this game almost like a Metroidvania, going through each area, trying to figure out the outs and ins of them and trying to figure out where the devs have really hidden all the small nuggets around the areas. This secret hunting aspect of the game makes a seemingly linear experience feel much more open and much more involved than it would in many other games where you are just running through each area, finding the secrets, and then you're just done and you just move on. It brings a lot more replayability too, as even though I've played through this game multiple times on PS3 and PS4 and on PC recently for the purposes of this conversation, I still don't remember where everything is because there are some things that are just very well hidden and took a while for me to find again. That and its undeniable style and just its brutality of the moment-to-moment combat and the fancy finishers that harken back to a time where all you really needed was a badass character doing badass things and a story to go through. And this is a product of that nearly bygone era that just reveled in its own badassery in the first place. And I am so excited for the release ahead of Darksiders 4 because I hope to have a new adventure with all that same badassery and hopefully a phenomenal story to go with it, as this game definitely ends on one hell of a cliffhanger and a crazy high point. It's like watching the first Lord of the Rings where you're like, all right, the adventure has started and it's over. And while at the time, a lot of people said, what is this? Why is it over? We're getting to the good part. Over the years, with the releases of Darksiders 2 and 3, and even Darksiders Genesis, we've gotten more and more of what was teased at the end of this game. So with Darksiders 4, I really hope it brings it full circle because it has really ignited my love for this series again, just seeing and knowing there's one on the horizon. And I'll be playing through each one of these and wanting to talk about each one as I go through. But for now, thank you for stopping by and listening to me gush about one of my favorite games that I honestly can just play infinitely and just keep on coming back to revisit because it is just so fun. I highly recommend, if you haven't played this series, start here at the first Darksiders. It ages phenomenally, feels great to play even still, and will definitely hook you to the rest of the series. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks for stopping by. I've been Hack Fanatic. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, as I will be making more Darksiders stuff in the future, and I hope to see you there. Peace.